here with Justine Rembisz, and she is really cool because she's into robotics. So can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I didn't really know I wanted to do robotics probably until like my senior year of high school. I actually got to partake in a really interesting program when I was in high school where I went to magnet school for math and science half day and then back to my home high school in my town for the other classes such as history, English, language, stuff like that. And so while I was at this magnet school for math and science, I was allowed to take 2 science classes and 1 math class, which was super, super cool. And back then I was really into biology. And so I got to take classes like pathophysiology, endocrinology, all these things that were super interesting. I did a self-research project where I looked at the neurons in leeches to see how they would react to different touches. And so I would pull these glass electrodes so I could poke it into an individual neuron in the ganglion of the leech, which was pretty cool. But then, junior year, I started to take what I would call the ICS, robotics, electronics, and photonics, and this was all with a teacher at the school that I really connected with, and he just grew my love of engineering and technology. So we generally had like a pretty big break between your home high school and your magnet high school, and so while other kids would socialize, hang out, and things like that, I would go with this teacher and say, I want to know how a motor works. Let's build one from scratch out of like Legos. And so we did that together, and it really gave me this deep understanding of various mechanisms and engineering concepts. And from these classes, I really learned that I loved building things. So, and I loved robotics, and he said, you have to apply to Carnegie Mellon, it's the best robotics school out there. And so I did, and I got the acceptance letter on my birthday, which was really cool for me. And so I went to Carnegie Mellon. Freshman year, I joined the robotics club immediately, and I started working in robotics labs throughout the university. I worked on the DARPA Grand Challenge team for a brief while. I worked in a nano robotics laboratory for a little while, and we made little robot water spiders that could use surface tension to float on water, and they would vibrate in different ways to move around the water. And then finally I worked in a snake robotics lab, and this is the one that I worked in for the longest time. And so what we did was we designed 1 degree of freedom metal modules that had servos in them, and we rotated them 90 degrees each time, and there were 16 of these modules, and you could pass functions basically through these servos, and that would cause different types of motion. So like a sinusoidal function would cause it to go forward. We could wrap it into a spiral and then cause the modules to rotate so it could climb up poles and even your leg. And meanwhile, I also joined the robotics club and was really active there. When I started, it was a club of probably like 15 to 20 people, and by the time I was a senior, I was president with another person, and it was a 150-person student organization. So really just, it's been a theme of my life to try to get other people interested in robotics. When I graduated, I went to iRobot. If you've heard of them, they do the Roomba vacuum cleaner, but I actually worked for the research branch of that, and what we did was we did DARPA projects. So there was a program that I worked on while I was there called ChemBots, and the idea was, let's say we have soldiers in the field and they want to see what's going on through this door. Let's build a soft, squishy robot that can squeeze under the door and then sort of inflate on the other side and move around.
Wow.
And so we used what we call a jamming technology. So we take like a silicon chamber and we put a substrate inside of it, and when there's normal air pressure in there, the substrate acts as a liquid, and so you can really squish this down. But when you vacuum the air out, the substrate basically kind of attaches to itself and causes it to become very hard. And so you can play around with this jamming feature to get motions in your robot. So we built basically like a soccer ball that had different cells of this, and then we put a balloon inside that soccer ball, and so we would jam certain cells and blow the balloon bladder on the inside out, so you would create like this lump shape, and then that would cause the whole balloon to like roll forward. But you could, if you unjammed everything, you could really squish it down. So that was pretty cool, and fun fact, it turns out that Green Mountain ground coffee is the best substrate that we found.
I love coffee.
Yeah. From there, I went and worked at a startup company in Pittsburgh that did high-tech baby products, and I worked on a stroller that folds itself when you push a button, which is pretty cool. And then from there, I went and worked at a startup that did low-cost, 7-degree of freedom manufacturing arms, robotic arms. And we actually got bought by Google, and that's how I became into the X family.
Yeah, so she's at Google X, and I actually didn't tell this to you at first because she actually said she's working on secret projects. So she can't really talk about the robotics things she's doing at Google X.
Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon, yeah. So I'm going to ask you, you said that you want to encourage so many people to just join and start robotics.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's never done robotics before? Where should they start?
Sure. Anywhere, really. I think Lego Mindstorms is actually a really great kit to start robotics. They have self-contained projects already that you can do, and what's really awesome about it is you can build the things, mechanical engineering, you can put together electronics and sensors, electrical engineering, and then you can write the code to make the robot move, computer science. So it really encompasses all the different aspects of robotics into that project. Otherwise, if you're in school, join your robotics club, please. If you have professors doing robotics research, honestly, the best experience I got was working in those labs. That was the most real-world experience that I got that translated into job skills, which translated into me getting really good jobs. So yeah, definitely do that. I'd also like to say that the first 6 years of my career, I did not have another female coworker that was an engineer, and that was pretty depressing, but don't let that get you down. I think the more people we can encourage to do robotics, the less of a problem that will be, and I think it's young people like you that need to change the world right now.
I couldn't agree more. So you've done so many things. What age are you?
I'm 29.
29.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just awesome because you are one of my heroes right now. You really are. And I want to thank you for all the awesome things you work on because it actually translates in our lives getting better. And I have a small question because you said at some point that you worked on robotic spiders and robotic snakes and so on. So I went to NASA these days and they actually have a giant robotic spider that they want to use for, I don't know, going outside the space stations and just doing work there. And the spider's name is Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it's unused at the moment. Can you tell us a bit about how animal-like robots can help change our lives?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the big problems in robotics is you're trying to get machines to move naturally. So where do you draw inspiration from? Nature. That's why you see tons of robots inspired after nature. You see robot cheetahs, robot snakes, robot spiders, robot frogs, robot geckos. There's amazing projects where people are mimicking the materials that geckos have on their feet to climb up walls and creating robots out of them. And I think that rather than completely reinventing life, it's much easier to pull from nature and perhaps like the snake has a really interesting motion that it does. We actually went to a zoo in Atlanta and put our snake on a slippery sandy surface on a hill and watched it go up, and then we got different types of snakes from the zoo to go up the same hill, and we used that to influence the types of algorithms we were using to determine the motions of the snakes, and it actually helped us climb that hill better.
Wow. Okay, thank you so much. This is a pocket Codette.
Thank you.
It's for you to remember us by.
All right. Thank you so much.